Today we're looking at more new Stellar Crown decks from Japan, including Hydrapple EX, Cinderace EX, and Galvantula EX. Keep in mind that some of these deck lists are likely still not optimized, and they are mostly taken from smaller Japanese tournaments where these deck lists have been published from. So let's start off with a Cinderace EX Pidgeot EX deck. This is going to be a little similar to looking at a build of like Charizard Pidgeot. They're taking that same approach of the two stage 2s with the Arven engine, Rotom, Forest Hill Stone, things like that. And let's take a look at what exactly Cinderace EX does. So it's one of those new stellar terastallized Pokemon with the special art and everything and the weird energy costs. Cinderace EX is a fire type, stage 2 with 320 HP. It has 2 attacks, the first one Flare Strike doing 280, and next turn you can't use Flare Strike, and the second being Garnet Volley, which does 180 to one of your opponent's Pokemon, but requires a very odd energy cost. The other new card in this deck list is the Crispin Supporter, which allows you to search your deck for 2 different kinds of energy, of basic energy. You attach one of them to one of your Pokemon and put the other into your hand. So that works pretty well with the weird energy cost on some of these stellar Terra Pokemon. Another thing that works well with them is Neo Upper Energy, which this deck is choosing as its A spec. Since Cinderace EX has Darkness Energy in its energy cost, this deck list has fit in one Monkey Dory, so you can move some of your own Magma Basin energy off of a Pokemon and put that onto your opponent's board, essentially boosting your damage output from 280 up to maybe 310 or even higher with the help of the Monkey Dory. And the Monkey Dory moving damage for the Garnet Volley attack is also pretty significant, because if you move 30 damage onto, let's say, a Pheasantipede EX, that's now down to 180 health, and then you can finish that off with a Garnet Volley for 180. Cinderace EX is definitely looking like more of a fun tier deck. I'm not sure if it's ever going to be viable to play this when you could just play Charizard EX, but it looks functional. It looks like you can, like I said, just fit it into that skeleton of what a Charizard Pidgeot deck looks like and make it Cinderace Pidgeot instead, and then fill out the deck with more unique cards for Cinderace, like that Neo Upper, like the Dark Energy, like the Monkey Dory, and like the Crispin. Next, we're looking at a Galvantula EX deck built around, of course, Galvantula, but also Blissey EX and the new item card, Glass Trumpet. So there's a lot going on with this deck. So first, let's look over what the Joltik and the Galvantula do. Joltik itself is a 30 HP Pokemon with actually an incredible attack. Battery charge for 1 energy. Search your deck up to 2 basic grass and 2 basic lightning and attach them to your Pokemon in any way you like. That's right, you're not reading this wrong. This Pokemon, this basic Pokemon, for 1 energy, searches your deck for up to 4 basic energy cards and attaches them to your Pokemon in any way you like. This is probably the best energy accelerating attack we've ever seen on a single prize basic Pokemon. It's actually absurd how strong this battery charge attack can be. And then that's not all. Joltik evolves into our main attacker, Galvantula EX. Galvantula EX has 260 health, and it has 2 viable attacks, similar to Cinderace EX, which I like about these cards that we're looking at so far. It's very nice to have Pokemon that have more than 1 usable attack. So Galvantula EX's first attack, Charged Web, does 110, and if your opponent's active is an EX or a V, it does 220 instead. And then the main attack here, I think, for Galvantula will be the Fulgurite attack, which that's a pretty weird word. I wouldn't be surprised if the translation ends up being something different. These are proxies, translated proxies that we're using for the video. This attack costs the very weird energy cost of Grass, Lightning, Fighting. It does 180, and you discard all energy from this Pokemon during your opponent's next turn. They can't play any item cards from their hand. So a very strong item lock attack. We're used to seeing something like Banette EX or Venomoth just poking for 30 damage and item lock, but This attack is doing 180 damage, that's a chunk of health, and item lock the opponent. Of course, you do have to discard all energy from this Pokemon, but that's going to be pretty easy to manage the way this deck is built. I mentioned that we're going to be using that Glass Trumpet card as an important part of the deck. It's an item card that says you can only play it if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, which won't be hard because Galvantula is a Terra Pokemon. And you choose up to 2 of your benched colorless Pokemon and attach a basic energy from your discard pile to each of them. Now, Galvantula is not colorless, but Blissey EX and Chansey are. So Blissey EX allows you to once a turn move an energy from a Pokemon to a Pokemon. So if you Glass Trumpet and accelerate an energy to 2 of each Blisseys, so you get 2 energies onto the board that way, you can then use both of the Blissey's abilities to move 1 of those energies each. That's 2 energies from the discard moved directly to Galvantula, and then you can attach that Stellar Crystal A-Spec card, Sparkling Crystal A-Spec card, to reduce the cost of Galvantula's attack. So now you only need either Grass or Lightning and Fighting, or Fighting and Grass, from the Trumpet onto the Galvantula from the Blissey EX abilities, and now you're already attacking again. So you can chain that item lock attack back to back, 180, discard all of your energy, do it all over again. This deck is also playing the Crispin Supporter or some other ways to accelerate energy cards. Next is Hydrapple EX. So Hydrapple EX is a Stage 2 EX Pokemon. It has the ability Ripe Charge. Once a turn, you can attach a basic energy from your hand to a Pokemon, and if you do, you heal 30 from that Pokemon. Pretty nice for energy acceleration. Could come into play with the healing as well. And then the only attack here for Hydrapple is Syrup Storm. For 2 colorless, you do 30 damage plus 30 more damage for each grass energy attached to all of your Pokemon. So this deck is running 15 grass energy, and you can accelerate those grass energy not only with Hydrapple EX's ability, but more importantly with Teal Mask Ogerpon EX's Teal Dance, which is going to accelerate energy and draw you cards. So Hydrapple EX will be the main attacker here, but this deck does play 1 Briar, which is going to allow your Terra Pokemon to take an extra prize card as long as your opponent's at exactly 2 prize cards. So this is where Teal Mask Ogerpon can come into play as a really good attacker, because you can surprise your opponent and take an extra prize card with that Briar supporter card. This deck list is also playing the new Great Tree A-Spec Stadium, which will allow you to search your deck for the evolutions and evolve straight up from Applin to Dipplin, and then from Dipplin to Hydrapple. You'll also notice that there is one of the Dipplin that attacks twice with the Festival Stadium in there, so they've got 1 Festival Stadium and 1 of that Dipplin that can make use of attacking twice with it. And now we're going to get into a few different Terrapagos EX variants. This first one we're going to take a look at here is Terrapagos with Darkrai V-Star. So Terrapagos EX I did cover in my last video, but I wanted to go into more different variants because I only covered the Palkia V-Star variant, which we will actually look at one more Palkia V-Star list today as well for Terrapagos. But Terrapagos EX, 230 HP, basic colorless Terra Pokemon. It has the Unified Beatdown attack that does 30 damage for each of your benched Pokemon. You can't use it on your first turn going second. And then it also has the Crown Opal attack, 180 during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from basic non-colorless Pokemon. But that Crown Opal attack is definitely not going to be used in this deck because it costs a very awkward Grass, Water, Lightning, and we're only playing Dark Energy in this deck. And that's because Darkrai V-Star actually becomes a very strong attacker in this deck. Most people look at Darkrai V-Star for its Star Abyss ability, which allows you to put 2 item cards from your discard pile into your hand, and we will absolutely be using it for that V-Star power in this deck. However, its Dark Pulse attack for 2 colorless does 30 damage plus 30 more damage for each Dark Energy attached to all of your Pokemon. And because of that new Glass Trumpet card, it's going to be incredibly easy to swarm the board with basic dark energies, attaching them to your Terrapagos, to your Noctowl, to your Squawkabilly, to your Fan Rotom, whatever you need to attach them to get them onto the board so that your Darkrai V-Star's Dark Pulse attack is doing more damage. And of course, you can also attack with Terrapagos EX when that's a better attacker than Darkrai V-Star. So that's the first Terrapagos EX variant we're looking at. The next one here is Terrapagos EX with Dusknoir, and also with Pidgeot EX. This one might look similar to a variant that I believe Andrew Mahone posted on his Twitter and that he played on a Twitch stream. This is going to be much more focused on Terrapagos EX as your attacker, and also Blood Moon EX as your attacker, because Blood Moon EX, as we know, gets to attack for less energy when the opponent has less prize cards, and Dusclops and Dusknoir can force the opponent to take prize cards, not only for making Blood Moon easier to attack with, but you can also force your opponent to take prize cards to put them at exactly 2 so that you can use that Briar supporter, which this deck is cleverly playing 2 of to pair with that Dusclops and Dusknoir when the time is right. I should also mention the Area 0 Underdepths Stadium, which we'll see in all of these Terrapagos decks, that lets you have a bench size of 8 if you have at least 1 Terra Pokemon in play. And next here, we do have another Terrapagos EX variant. Like I said, we would show one today with the Palkia V-Star in here. So Palkia V-Star is a pretty good attacker, but then when you add Area 0 Underdepths into the mix and you have an 8 Pokemon bench, Palkia V-Star gets a lot stronger. You'll frequently be hitting 300 damage and higher as long as your opponent even has just a few Pokemon on their bench. The new Hoot and Noctowl cards you'll see here. Noctowl has the ability that allows you to search your deck for up to 2 trainer cards, not items, 2 trainer cards when you evolve Noctowl, as long as you have a Terra Pokemon in play. So you're going to want to make sure you have that Terrapagos EX on the board, and then you evolve the Noctowl and search for any 2 trainers. That is ridiculous. And the Fan Rotom helps you search out your colorless Pokemon on turn 1, so you could do something like search for a Hoot and a Noctowl, and then next turn evolve your Noctowl, search for an Ultra Ball and a trainer, Ultra Ball for another Noctowl, search for 2 more trainers. It's going to be pretty crazy what Noctowl allows you to do and find these combo pieces. And speaking of combo pieces, this deck is running the Prime Catcher, Canceling Cologne, Radiant Greninja, Palkia V-Star, Kelowna Manaphy, knock out 2 Pokemon with Moonlight Shuriken. So you can do that combo pretty easily with what Noctowl allows you to do. And what I like about this deck that's pretty cool is that it's playing 3 Grass Energy and Iron Leaves EX, which is something I was waiting to see pop up, because you can Glass Trumpet, Grass to 2 different Terrapagos, and then bench Iron Leaves and move them to Iron Leaves and then attach return to Iron Leaves. So I think that's pretty cool. Glass Trumpet just opens up a lot of potential for a lot of cards that we already had. And then last, we'll look at this kind of straight Terrapagos deck. Running 3 Terrapagos, the 3/3 Noctowl, the 2 Fan Rotom, and now the new card here that we didn't see in the other lists today is Bouffalant. Bouffalant has the Curly Wall ability. If you have another Bouffalant in play, all of your basic colorless Pokemon take 60 less damage from attacks done by your opponent's Pokemon. So you bench 2 of these Bouffalants with all of that extra bench space you have from the Area 0 Underdepths. You can either just stuff it into the active and now you have a Pokemon that your opponent has to do 162 and it's only a single prizer, but really the best use is it makes Terrapagos essentially take 290 damage to one shot, and it makes Blood Moon or Saluna take 320 damage to one shot. So the Bouffalant makes your basic colorless beat stick Pokemon a lot bulkier. And then you have all the other good stuff here, the Glass Trumpet, the Area 0 Underdepths. You have the amount of energy here, or the kinds of energy here, that you can actually be using Terrapagos's Crown Opal attack in this deck that I was talking about, which can pretty effectively wall out a lot of decks that are using basic non-colorless Pokemon as their attackers. And of course, with that grass energy included in here for Terrapagos, it's also very easy to make use of the Iron Leaves EX. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching, and subscribe to the channel for more Pokemon TCG content. You can check out ways to support my channel in the description down below, and I'll see you next time here on Celio's Network.